You're welcome back. Well, it's time to review another week ended, and for the week August 24th to 30th, AFEX commodity market summary components we're here to see, and Michael Martins, portfolio manager of AFEX, has the details of the happenings in the week. Hello, Michael. Good to have you again.
Hi, Ini. Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you too. So take us through the week.
Thank you very much, Ini. So it has been a pretty eventful week on the exchange, in the week under consideration. So if you look at the table in front of you, the total value of transactions traded on the exchange went up by a factor of 8, from 0.26 billion naira to close to trading week at 2.37 billion naira. The total number of contracts traded on the exchange also went up significantly by a factor of 129, from 1,127 contracts to close to trading week at over 146,000 contracts. The total number of deals, however, fell by 70%, from 17 deals to close to trading week at 10 deals. The ACI, which is the AFEX Commodities Index, inched up ever so slightly by 0.06%, from 424.62 points to close to trading week at 424.87 points. The AFEX Export Index, which is the AEI, remained unchanged at 168.08 points. With regards to the volume of contracts traded on the exchange, like I said earlier, there was generally high activity this week in comparison to the previous week, with the biggest changes happening with maize, which traded 1,077 contracts last week, to trading over 145,000 contracts this week. Other changes were with soybean, which traded 3 contracts last week to trade more than 1,000 contracts this week. And last but certainly not least, we saw paddy rice trade from 2 contracts last week to trading 4 contracts this week. With regards to the price changes on the exchange, there was a general unchange in the prices of commodities on the exchange. We, however, saw changes with the price of soybean, which went up by 11%, gaining 3,683 naira in the contract value to close to trading week at over 37,000 naira per contract. We also saw a slight change in the price of cocoa, which went up by 1.38%, gaining 1,327 naira in the contract value to close the trading week at over 97,000 naira per contract. And last but certainly not least, with regards to prices, we saw maize fall by 3.33%, losing 800 naira in the contract value to close the trading week at just over 23,000 naira. And as we always say, if you want to know more about the commodities market, you can always go to our website, which is www.afexnigeria.com. And if you want to get started trading commodities, and this is ideally the time that you want to start learning about trading the commodities market, you can always download our app, which is available on iOS and Android.
So, Michael, we noticed that maize is a commodity of interest at this time. So we're just wondering, how is the harvest season affecting it? We see a drop in its price and all that. How is the harvest season affecting maize at this time? Of course, it's a multi-purpose commodity. There's so many things that it's being used for, obviously. So it's being drawn, you know, on different sides.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think it's a very important question too, because it more so speaks to our outlook for the new commodity season. And of course, we would be talking about maize being the most liquid commodity on the exchange and even the open market by extension. So when it comes to price reset on the exchange, or even by extension the commodities market at large at harvest, there are a couple of factors that determine what prices will start at harvest period. But the major determinant would ideally be rainfall, and what we have seen this year is the fact that although the rainfall started a bit later than expected, we have seen consistent rainfall week on week, meaning that, you know, rains have been falling week on week for a consistent period of time. And now there are 2 implications for this. So if the rains do stop early enough, what that would mean for farmers who have gone to cultivate maize in the market would essentially be that it would allow them be able to dry the commodities and then enter into the commodities market as and when due, so that the prices can essentially reset when we expect them to, which is ideally around the month of October and also November. But if it is the case that the rains continue for an extended period of time and it takes a while before they stop, it might be the case that the prices will not necessarily reset as expected. So what would happen would be similar to what happened in the year 2019, whereby the rains continued for an extended period of time, and then there was a significant price increase over a 3-week period. That's for the price of maize now, from about I think the price around the time was about 87,000, and then went up significantly over a 3-week period to close at over 97,000. So I think with regards to rainfall and our price outlook for commodities in general, I think rainfall will be the biggest determinant, and whether or not they start they end early enough will determine whether or not prices would reset. Another issue that we might also consider, because we are also doing our crop production survey at the firm, and we are trying to evaluate the volume that will come into the market at harvest. Another issue that we would also be looking at is insecurity, and what we are trying to compare this year in comparison to last year is the number of hectareage that was cultivated this year. So if the insecurity issue has affected, we are going to see a lower number of hectareage, and of course by extension a lower production number in the market. But like I said, it is still early in the commodity season. We don't expect harvest until late October till early November. So it is still early to say whether or not there will be a price reset in the commodities market.
All right, Michael, thank you so much for that update. We'll be leaving Michael now, but we're still on AFEX. To make business easier for mid-sized commercial farms, stakeholders say there's need to shift perspectives from one that is entirely reliant on smallholder farmers' production to one that supports, both smallholders and commercial farmers. Smallholder farmers account for over 90% of domestic output in Nigeria, which, begs the question: what are mid-sized commercial farmers, such as the ones sponsored by the AFDB and FMARD, doing? Nigeria, a country grappling with rising food prices, widespread poverty, requires assistance of mid-sized commercial farmers to scale up production. So we have Hemense Oka, the Vice President Commercials at AFEX, to share his the AFEX perspective. Good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Nigeria's smallholder farmers are responsible for about 90% of domestic output in the country. How best can we work things out in the agricultural space to include more mid-sized commercial farmers to scale up food production?
Definitely. So first of all, let me start by saying and expressing our gratitude to smallholder farmers for the work that they've done to bring us to this point. Mm-hmm. As you said, they're employing over 90% of the population. There's a lot of effort that they put into the work that they do, and a lot of reward that the country as a whole benefits from. But understandably, this is just not sustainable and just not enough for growth. We're not going to reach a point where we're going to be able to feed ourselves as a country and maybe even export and feed other nations if we don't invest more in farming and take it as not just a sustenance thing, but more as a business and grow. So it's important to include and start to locate smallholder farmers and move them, those that are able to, into the mid-sized to large commercial size bucket. So we're looking at 10 hectares and above, maybe all the way up to 100 hectares, just to keep it scalable and in order for us to actually have the desired effect that's going to come from being more focused on commercial farms.
So the public and private sector have roles to play in closing this wide gap. The wide gap on how smallholders farmers are producing more than mid-sized commercial farmers. And like we asked at the beginning, where are the mid-sized farmers? Could you identify policy directions and private sector roles that could help close these gaps, in a short period of time?
Definitely. So let's provide some context here, right? That these are very complex issues, and there's no one-size-fits-all model that's going to resolve everything. But more hands that are in and working together in collaboration, the more benefits that we're going to see. So from a policy angle, let's start with the government. There are probably about 4 different general areas in which that they can come in and intervene. It's either on the input side, on the actual output, on the technical angle, or finally in financing. So on inputs, that's one that we're all well aware of. That's providing seeds, fertilizer, but then also like allowing, policy to bring those goods into the country, right? So either reduction of tariffs or free trade zones, anything that can just improve the inputs, the availability of inputs in the country is a first step from the government angle. Next is on the output side, right? So we've seen this year CBN enact a grain stabilization program. You can also do the reverse as well. So that's to keep prices down. The reverse is to increase prices, right? So you can provide price incentives for goods that are produced, which is only going to encourage more farmers to go into the production of that commodity. On the technical side, there's the provision of field extension agents that can work with farmers, give them best agri practice training. And then also, just generally speaking, infrastructure is incredibly important. So the provision of roads, access to water, electricity, all those are necessary if you want to create the environment that mid-sized to large commercial farms can operate in. And finally is the financing side, which we're all well aware of, right? So there's subsidies, there's loans, discounts on tariffs. All those are opportunities in which the government can intervene. And finally, there's on the private side, we have, in order for this to be sustainable, it has to be privatized, right? And there has to be some sort of incentive for anybody that goes into this production. And so there are lots of companies that are in this space and working to increase the amount of mid-sized farmers that are in this space.
All right. Well, one of the challenges faced by the sector in trying to, foster collaboration among players, both in the value chain and, the chain and across other sectors.
Yeah, so collaboration is very, very important. So there are companies that have been in this space for over 10 years actively, a lot longer actually, but in sort of like the modern era for over 10 years. And then the new companies that are propping up. What happens is, unfortunately, a lot of us kind of remain in our own silos and sometimes even overlap, but not in a way that is productive and can be seen more as competition rather than collaboration. So I think there needs to be a change in mindsets. At AFEX, we talk about this word all the time, goal congruency, right? So even though we're in different teams and different areas, we're working together to achieve a common objective. And that's where we need to get to. So for the more established agricultural companies, they have years of experience, years of mistakes, years of losses, years of knowledge. They can share that with other up-and-coming agri companies that are interested in working with us. It's not going to be a free transfer of knowledge, but it doesn't mean it comes with a financial reward either. I think the trade-off for that would be in terms of collaboration and partnership. So how do we work together to bring about the change in a given area that we're looking for? So a lot of companies give loans in the same area to the same subset of farmers. That's not really helpful, right? So how do we work together and you bring your expertise, we'll bring our expertise, and hopefully that's just going to lead to greater food output down the line.
How can these mid-sized commercial farmers' activities help improve Nigeria's low productivity and price variations, which will in turn help the country's entire food system?
Yes, no, that's what this conversation is all about, and they're playing a key role in that, right? So as you said earlier, about 90% of the population is involved in agriculture, but yet they're not producing enough to feed us, our country. The reverse is the situation in a lot of Western nations, where you have 2 to 3% of their population directly working in agriculture, but yet they're able to feed their country and also even export to other countries. So Nigeria has a long way to go. By focusing on mid to large commercial farmers, we're going to actually see the increase in use of mechanization, which is going to improve the intensification of labor, provide greater efficiency. It's going to lower the cost of production because of the focus on one sector and one area. It's going to increase supply, obviously. So there'll be the availability of raw materials in a given area, and then that's also going to, because of the laws of supply and demand, reduce the cost of those goods in the market. And finally, it's also going to give the opportunity to provide FX for a nation that's desperately looking for it. And then let's not forget job creation. That's also going to come by a new skill set and new sets of expertise that's going to be needed. But yeah, it's important and it's critical for us if we're actually ever trying to truly achieve food security for the nation.
And I guess that's a suggestion of collaborating, getting a collaboration between the private and the public sector is also very key in this. But we have to stop the conversation here. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Hemense Oka, the Vice President Commercials of AFEX, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We'll just take a short break and we'll be right back.